Right, so it's Monday, the 14th of September, 2020, and this is the first proper journal entry. And I guess I should begin by just getting things up to speed with where the project's at the moment. So this is a collaborative documentary project where I'm working with the people involved in a collaborative way. So we're going to kind of basically work out how best to tell the story of people who have BPD or people who are in some ways affected by BPD, family members, partners, things like that. And hopefully if I can get some on board, clinicians as well who deal with people with BPD, to really create a three-dimensional picture of the BPD experience. And my hope for the project is that it can increase general awareness among the public about BPD, because not a lot of people actually really know about it. Those that do know quite little on average. And also to challenge the stigma, because BPD is a mental illness that has quite a strong stigma around it. So that's what I'm hoping to get out of the project. But everybody that gets involved is going to want to get their own things out of it, and we're going to try to make sure that that's something that happens, that it's beneficial for everybody involved. So far there are 10 people on board. I have had some people who have said that they want to do it and they've pulled out. Some people are not really sure where they're at, which is something I will be talking about in this journal. But at the moment, 10 people, including myself, because I'm a family member. My mother had BPD, or has BPD. So my mother is also in the project. So me, my mother, and then there's 8 others as well. 7 people with BPD and 3 partners or family members so far. Oh, actually 4 partners or family members. I forgot one. So 11 people in total, actually. And so that's pretty much it. I'm a documentary photographer. I'm not a psychologist. I'm coming into this as a family member and somebody who knows how to communicate something visually, but everybody who's in the project is going to bring their own skills, their own way of thinking about things, their own ideas, to work together to tell the BPD story. I've been working on this for a little while, but now is really when things are getting real. We're starting to do video interviews. We're starting to look at people's diary entries, starting to find ways for them to communicate their story. So the progress at this point in time, 14th of September 2020, is that I have conducted 8 interviews so far, 8 video interviews, where basically I'm asking questions and they're sharing their experience and their insight. That's people with BPD and family members as well. And that's been going reasonably well. But I guess one of the challenges that I'm facing at the moment is that I'm not a videographer. I don't have training in video, so I've been trying to teach myself how to do it. Trying to learn how to get the most from the equipment, and there have been some issues with that so far, in terms of not necessarily getting the best out of the equipment that I do have, and needing to keep improving in that area so that the quality visually is good. But in terms of the interviews themselves and the things that people have shared, that's been really great. I've gotten a lot of insight into BPD through the stories that people have shared, and they've shared some amazing stories, some quite painful stories, but they've been really quite open so far. And so that's been really good. How we're going to combine all of those things at this stage, I'm still really not sure. And that's something that I'm hoping to consult with the people that are involved in the project as well on. I think one of the biggest challenges at this point in time is dealing with the people that have BPD Now, they're all at various stages of their journey. So some are in a really good place right now, some not so much. And some have had therapy, some haven't. Yeah, it's quite varied. But I'm finding that I'm having a bit of challenge in knowing how to deal with everybody, because when I did my master's degree, I did a similar project. It was a documentary photography project. And I started with 7 people who volunteered to be a part of it. And a lot of people pulled out. I ended up with only 1 person left. And a lot of the time they pulled out before I even had the chance to meet them for the first time. And I know that there's a lot of reasons for that, and a lot of that is related to the BPD. People might feel overwhelmed easily. They might be, decide to be a part of it on impulse, and then just as impulsively decide it's not for them. There's a lot of things to it, and that's I guess a part of this project is facing those things, to admitting that yes, borderline personality disorder does affect people, and there are certain aspects to people's lives that are a result of that, and that actually having a relationship with somebody with BPD or working with somebody with BPD can have its own challenges as well. And it's about admitting to those challenges, but then more importantly, really trying to understand where that's coming from. Why are people, feeling overwhelmed? Why are their emotions so strong? Things like that. So I'm finding that I'm wanting to, work collaboratively with everybody in the project to give them the power also to be making decisions about the direction and things like that, to be represented in the way that they want to be represented, instead of just me saying, okay, I'm the boss of this project and here's how we're going to do it. No, it's really important to me that I'm just really facilitating. I'm just finding a way for them to tell their stories. And I don't want to, do things that results in something that's not actually the story they're wanting to tell. So I want to work collaboratively. But at the moment, I'm finding that I want to be communicating with them, I want to be getting them involved, but I also don't want to make them feel pressured. I don't want to overwhelm them, because everybody's still got their own lives. They're dealing with work, they're dealing with family, relationships, other commitments, and the last thing I want to do is for this project to in any way be harmful to people or give them any kind of negative experience. I want this to be as beneficial as possible, and to have them feeling as good about it as possible throughout. But also, if, for example, I send out an email to the collaborators in the group and I don't get responses, then starts the questions of, should I follow up? Should I chase up that email, or should I give them a bit more time? I don't want them to feel pressured. I don't want them to feel like that I'm just hounding them, because they might pull out then. And it's really important to me that there's as many people telling their stories as possible. I don't want them to, and I don't want to make their lives worse in any way for being a part of the project. So this is a challenge I face at the moment, is knowing how to keep the communication happening, how to keep dealing with the collaborators, and to be organizing things and having the momentum continuing without pushing too hard, without overwhelming them, without making them feel pressured, without, in any way making them wish they weren't a part of the project. I want this to be a positive thing. So that's the challenge I'm having at the moment, because, you know, for example, I wanted to organize a group get together so that all the collaborators could just meet each other and know who else is in it, you know, and to even in a way maybe create another kind of network where they know like-minded people going through similar things, and so that they can have people to share with that know what they're going through. But it's been really hard because most of the emails I've sent out, a lot of people have not really replied to those, and so trying to coordinate something has been a bit of a challenge. And you know, I also don't know how much of that is because of BPD, how much of that is just people's, you know, human nature. Because some people may take time to reply to emails. I know for me, myself, sometimes I can get a bit slack in replying to emails that I get. It might take me a couple of days, and that's something that I'm kind of working on myself. So even, you know, I mean, I'm not saying I'm normal. I mean, what's normal anyway? But I don't have BPD, but I myself, you know, may avoid things that I don't necessarily want to deal with, or you know, things like that, or, you know, sometimes I just put things off and it just happens. So I don't even know, you know, are people not replying because maybe they're in a bad place and they're not feeling that they really ready to interact? Or is it that they just haven't gotten around to it? So, you know, this is the challenge. I guess it's kind of already difficult working with a group of people in any situation, but when you bring BPD into the mix, that does increase the complexity of it. But what I'm wanting to do in this project, for me personally, what I want to do is to acknowledge the challenges and some of the difficulties, but to really understand where it's all coming from, as I mentioned before. So yeah, so I'm being open and honest about everything as this project continues, so that, you know, because this is just as much a part of understanding BPD as anything, because I'm working with people with BPD, and I want to communicate what maybe some of the challenges may be, because I don't want to upset people. And I guess there's sometimes maybe relatives, loved ones of people with BPD, maybe they feel they have to walk on eggshells a little bit around them. Well, yeah, because I do feel a little bit that way at the moment with where I am in the project at this point in time. But that's something that I want to talk with the collaborators about, to get, you know, their thinking on it, you know, and to know where they're coming from, because this whole project is just about understanding. It's not about trying to paint a pretty picture, but it's also not about pointing out the negative things. It's about saying, okay, here's how different people who are affected by BPD feel, whether they've got it or their loved ones have it. This is how they feel. This is true and genuine feelings, and let's look at, you know, where a lot of those feelings are coming from, so that we can really understand it, and to see people as people, not as a label, or a, you know, that people with BPD are not any less normal people as anyone else. They just have a particular, you know, they have a disorder that is affecting the way that their brain processes things, the way that they think, the way that they see themselves and the world. And there's lots of reasons for that. So how do they feel as people? How do they feel? What is the experience like? So that's what this project's about. So that's where we're at. We've got 11 people, including myself, who are at the moment collaborating on this. And hopefully everybody sticks with it, because I know that everybody that does initially get involved, they want they want people to understand. They want to share their stories. But sometimes it's something that just doesn't work out at this time for them. So I know some people, have pulled out. And I guess the hard thing for me, trying to kind of bring everybody together to work together, is that often when people pull out, they just disappear. And I don't know if they've pulled out or if something else has happened. And so I really appreciate when people do communicate with me about that. But at this time, I've got a few people who are keeping the communication really happening, which is great. Some people not so much, but from time to time they do get in touch, and I work with what I can. But that's where it's at. That's where it's at the moment. That's the challenges. Today I just interviewed Mum. She came around here and I did an interview, and I learned things. I heard some stories that I'd never heard her tell. So that was really interesting. And I'm really hoping that the stories that come up through the video interviews, through other things, journal articles, some of the people in the project are creative. They might like to paint or draw or things, and they can also share their experience visually through artwork. So that's what lies ahead, exploring all of the different ways that the people involved can tell their story so that we can create this diverse and rounded picture of BPD. So that's it at the moment. There's a couple more people who may get involved. One thing I've been really surprised by this week, since I put the first video of the journal, just the intro kind of video, online, is how many people that I know but I didn't know are in some way touched by BPD. One person I've known for like 20 years, and I just found out her daughter has been diagnosed with BPD. Another person who stayed in the same college I did at uni years ago was diagnosed about a year ago and is still getting her head around things. So I'm just surprised actually by how many people are actually affected by BPD, yet there's still so little awareness in the general community about it. So that's what this project's about, trying to counter. And also some of the negative stereotypes, some may be based on truth, but just so blown out of proportion or with such an emphasis on certain aspects that we're not really creating an accurate picture of what BPD is about. So things are going well. But two members that I took Mum to a place where there was a certain activity which helped her, get out a bit of aggression. And I was speaking with the people that run the place, and I found out that the people who run it, I spoke with a woman and her sister has BPD and her daughter also has BPD. So they may get involved as well, both as family members of BPD people as well as, maybe her daughter might get involved as well as she has BPD. So, trying to bring in as many people to tell their stories as possible, this will create a better result. But I've just been really surprised this week by just actually how widespread it is. I mean, I read the figures and I see different statistics and things like that. But when you start just running into more and more people whose lives are touched by BPD in some way, I'm surprised myself. And I've been working on, this kind of theme for, a couple of years now, as a documentary photographer, not as a psychologist or anything like that. So that's where the project's at. 11 people involved so far, who are at the moment, keeping up various levels of communication, which is good. And just pretty much wrapping up the video interviews, which means I need to now start communicating with my collaborators in the project. I say collaborators and not participants because they're giving just as much on, and I think in terms of the hierarchy, it's more level when I refer to them as collaborators, because that's the way I see them. Because they were all bringing their own ideas and strengths and things like that. So, you know, they're shaping the project. So, yeah, I don't even know what I was saying, but that's where we're at. And I'm just going to keep reading as much as I can, educating myself about BPD. And yeah, I'm looking forward to wrapping up the video interviews that we're doing at the moment and getting on to the next stage, which will be, I guess, collaborating more deeply with the participants to document their lives and their experience, and to find ways for them to tell their story beyond those video interviews, to you know, delve even more deeply into their experience. So yeah, I'll leave it at that. I've rambled enough, and yeah, hopefully things will go well. I'm going to get back to some reading now. Yep.